Hello everybody, I'm Mike Murtis on Let It Logic, and welcome to another episode of Gamer Logic. Today we are going to try out another NES game. I was going through my collection and realized that I had one on my pile that I haven't played as of many. And the game is Frankenstein, The Monster Returns, which has a lot of similarities to Castlevania, though it doesn't really pull it off as well. But I've never played this game before, and I thought I'd pop it in and see if I could play through it, and I managed to beat it in about an hour. Figured I'd do a review of it, so here we go with Frankenstein, The Monster Returns. Frankenstein has returned, and he's back with a vengeance. To make his presence known, he sets fire to a couple of neighboring villages and kidnaps the town elder's daughter, Emily. You play as the hapless hero who happens to be in the right place in the wrong time and takes on the challenge of putting down Frankenstein for good. The storyline in this game is presented with a mix of dialogue between a variety of characters in a cutscene format. While the story is nothing you haven't seen or heard before, it at least keeps you interested. Control is fairly simple for this game. B is your basic attack button, though you do get a variety of upgrades for your sword or club that will allow you to shoot projectiles from it. Sometimes this requires you to hold up on the D-pad though to activate it. A button is your jump button, and if you hit it twice you'll perform a jump kick. Select button allows you to use extra life potions that are picked up throughout the game, and they come in handy, especially during the later parts of the game. As good as the control can be, the hit detection has some major issues with it at times, though it sometimes works in your favor, and other times it works against your favor majorly. There were times when I thought I was hitting the boss when it turned out my attack was going right through them, but they were able to hit me from almost anywhere without any issue whatsoever. Some of the bosses are a real pain because of this, but there are other bosses that have way too much hit detection. The Wolfman is a prime example of this. As soon as the boss fight starts with him, you can just pound on the B button, and if you get him before he even gets a chance to move, you'll defeat him in probably less than a minute. The sound in this game is alright, though it's fairly generic. Don't expect any sounds of swords clashing when it hits things, just the generic blow-up sound when enemies are defeated. The game has one decent music track in it, but the rest get pretty annoying due to the amount of high-pitched chip sounds they use. Your hero character doesn't look too bad, and most boss enemies look pretty decent and match up to their actual monster counterparts. The game does have some variety in its graphics and does a pretty good job of making the background look different, such as graveyards, forests, castles, and an evil dark dimension. At least you don't feel like you're scrolling through the same thing over and over again. The same can't be said, however, for the last level. That dark dimension level looks like they just pasted the same layer over and over again and used a random mashup of colors to make the boss battles happen. Frankenstein the Monster Returns is a lot like Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, except there's not a lot of places to explore. You do have the option to go and enter buildings and talk to characters and get various upgrades from them, though it's a lot more straightforward than it was in Castlevania 2, and you don't have to have hearts or money to purchase things. A couple levels have places where you need to enter in order to pick up additional power-ups, which is much needed in this game for some of the boss fights. A lot of people say the boss fights in this game are pretty hard, but once you figure out the pattern, like any NES game, it's actually pretty easy. I beat the game in about an hour. The two major trouble spots I had in this game had nothing to do with boss battles. Instead, it had something to do with stage 2, where you're jumping across these platforms in order to get past the pond. If you fall into the pond, you have to face the fish monster. The thing is, jumping on the second platform over and over again, you can clearly see that I'm at least touching the second platform, but I fall in. You really just have to crank on the forward button on the D-pad and jump, but it does take a couple of times to get past it. I must have fought the fish man at least 10 to 15 times before I could finally hit that second platform and get to the end of the stage. The last trouble spot takes place on the last level. Your hero character has to jump on a variety of swinging ropes in order to get to the end of the stage. Below him is a pond of goo that will drain your energy almost instantly. The problem is, the ropes don't have any sort of physics to it whatsoever. The place where you need to jump off them is so random that you usually end up falling. You lose your life, and if you don't have any extra life potions, you don't have a chance of getting revived, and you only get 2 continues in this game. You don't get lives, only continues. After that, it's game over, but at least there's a password feature to bring you back into the game. Still, rather annoying though. Overall, Frankenstein the Monster Returns was a fairly average game, and I would give it a 3 out of 5 stars. The game kept me interested enough to actually beat it, which is always good, and it was a nice surprise to plug in seeing I had never played it before. I guess you really could call it a Castlevania clone, and if you're looking to play something like Castlevania, this would probably be it. Folks, this has been another episode of Gamer Logic. I'm Mike Murtis. Be sure to comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you on another episode soon.